Welcome. Are we live? I think so. I've spent the morning. I don't know if you've ever tried to deal with dental insurance here in America, but it's kind of wild. They have this in-network, out-of-network thing. And for all you youths out there, you youngins, let me just say, as soon as you have to experience health insurance in America for yourself, you're going to completely comprehend why people say free Luigi. Because I pay for health insurance, I pay for dental insurance, and it turns out I just pay to be a part of a club, and that club allows me to just pay more money. I don't understand any of it. Like I said to one of the insurance ladies when I was on the phone with her, I said, why do you provide me a 10th grade equation for me to have to figure out how much I would pay out of pocket? And she's like, what? And I said, well, the thing is, you say you cover 80% in or out of network. The only difference between in network and out of network with insurance for dental insurance is in network, they negotiate a price. And I said, oh, awesome. Do you guys have a team of negotiators who will haggle? I said, can I be on the phone call when we're haggling for the dental prices? And she said, no, we don't negotiate anything. She said, what we do is we take the average of the zip code, the average cost in that zip code. And I said, well, that's a farce. That's a lie. You're not actually negotiating then. You're just taking averages. But here's the equation if you want to know how, if you're trying to figure out dental insurance. You have to meet the deductible. That's a number like $300, $100. And once you've met the deductible, then you add 80%, or actually you add 20%, because they'll cover 20% times 0.2 times the cost of the procedure. And that will give you the number you have to pay. Welcome to health insurance in America. Why do I pay somebody? Why do I pay I think they're publicly traded corporations. Why do I pay these publicly traded corporations money out of my paycheck so I then have to figure out the best 10th grade math equation for me to, take care of my teeth? Is absolutely bananas, but somehow a lot of Americans are like, hey, this is the system we got, and I'm going to defend it. Good morning, Kevin Hawthorne. How are you? My morning has been mediocrity. Dealing with dental people all day. And God bless the dentist, because that's one career that, for the life of me, I could never be like, I'm going to work on people's teeth. I just couldn't do it, I wish we all just had one tooth. I think somebody said that as a joke one point. But I mean, when I was younger, I was like, is there a way to magically make all your teeth metal so you never have to worry about them? Edward Thornton, what's up, man? And welcome to the live stream. I'm Rob. I want to stop by because I'm having such a brutal morning. Finding out that it's going to be close to $6,000 to do something for a tooth that got messed up by another dentist I went to, is devastating when you don't have $6,000. And then when people are like, oh, you go to this credit card company and they'll help you with and I'm like, so I got to finance my health, even though I pay for years to this company to belong to the health club. That's all this is. This is the biggest sham in America. You belong to this club that you pay a monthly, or actually for me, it's a weekly membership fee because I get paid weekly. So every week I pay a fee to belong to the club of you get access to dentists and doctors. Every week I pay. And then when I need it once in a lifetime, they're like, oh, well, you didn't meet your deductible. Plus you got to cover 20% of that $6,000. And then you're going to have to pay, and it's like, holy fuck. Holy fuck. And you're like, if I was just born in Canada, what the Canadians tell me is they go, well, the wait lines are long. And they go, oh, I'll take a long wait line over, financing a dentist. Kim, I didn't pick the cheapest dental option. I didn't. In fact, I picked the second most expensive. The second I have the silver premium or whatever the fuck it's called. So I didn't. I just didn't go with the top tier because when I was comparing the top tier and the silver tier, I said there's no difference except for the deductible was a little bit lower. Like the money you have to meet. Now, never mind paying them. Like, what are we paying them for? This is, can anybody answer me why we pay them weekly if we also have to pay them to do other stuff? Kim, yeah, the company is effing you the quality of insurance. Well, Kim, here's the thing. This isn't the first company I've gotten health insurance from. So my whole point is this is stupid. The rest of the world has insurance through their taxes and they don't have to finance a dentist trip. I have to finance, and that's if I can get approved. And if not, like the last time, I have to GoFundMe. This is America in the year of our Lord 2025. And it's so fucking depressing because I'm like, how does this help anybody? If anything, like, you ever had something wrong with your teeth or have a, diagnosis where you're like, oh, I don't know if I'm going to have to sell my home to become healthy. Like, that makes people mentally distraught. But the good thing is there's no help for mental illness in America. They made it all virtual AI appointments now, or I don't know what they're doing. Again, this is just my vision quest, so everything I say is, loose imaginations, grounded solidly in reality. But, there's like not great mental care. Old people use 35 to 40% of healthcare resources. I don't know where you get that number from, Kim, but here's the thing, Kim. When you say the real issue is we have to cover the cost of old people, Kim, I would gladly want my taxes to pay for old people and young people's health. Like, I want you to walk out your own point. That's what I want you to do. Kim, I want you to keep going. Don't argue with me. Just write this down on a piece of paper. Like, well, we've got to really care for those old people and their health, Those old people, they should just get a job. Most of them are. In fact, the ones I talk to when I'm going shopping and having to do errands, I'm like, oh, what are you doing here? And they're like, this is my retirement. I have to afford medication and I need to be covered to do that. So what I do is I go, where does this argument go? What's my goal in this? My goal is to get people to wake the fuck up and go, oh shit, Sweden, Norway, Denmark, Spain, Portugal, Canada, Israel. I'm trying to think of the other places that people like to talk about. Does Australia have it? I think of Australia. I don't know. But I know, like, all the places when you see the world's happiest people polls, when you look and it's like, oh, Norway won again. Oh, what is it? Well, they got good gun control and universal health care. Interesting. Also, they get paid parental leave, so they get to, like, raise their kids and they don't have to, like, do Zoom meetings while they're breastfeeding. So Kim, I just want you to walk that one all the way out, because here's the thing. I would rather pay a little more in taxes and know that there isn't some mother stressing because her son got hurt or her daughter got hurt, or, a mother stressing about not going to work because she has something going on with her teeth and how's she going to afford it, or even an old person being like, I have to afford this medication or I die. I would gladly be like, yeah, let's fucking, number one problem in America right there, that we have the solution, but people are like, well, how are we going to pay for it? It's like, well, nobody asked that when they opened Alligator Alcatraz. Sorry, let me go through the comments because I saw Crushed Ice. Good to see you. Good to see you, Crushed Ice. Good to see you. It's been a while. Sorry. Today, this isn't even the real live stream. This is just I've been on the phone. I've been up since early morning. See, damn Yankee, not less taxes and government control. More taxes on wealthy people. They can afford it. Okay? Larry Ellison yesterday made $100 billion in an hour, and you're like, less taxes, less government control. Let me walk your thing out. Here's what I got to do. Damn Yankee, I want you to walk that out. Okay, less taxes, so you keep more money. But here's the thing. If we have less government regulation, guess what? The corporations are going to dictate what they do. So if they all want to coordinate to price fix, then that money is going to be worth even less. And then let me walk you down a little lane I like, the little road less traveled called the path of the Palantir. Now, you Lord of the Rings nerds, I'm not talking about that Palantir. I'm talking about that Alex dude who lives up in New Hampshire, who's the CEO, who has said some heinous stuff about corporate control. And damn Yankee is like, yeah, I want Palantir to be able to make the rules where I don't have a representative, can't call anybody because their AI, their customer service doesn't exist, or it's AI or outsourced. And I would really like the corporations who are hardly reined in at all right now to really just not be in any way bothered by the government, which, you know, makes sure there aren't monopolies and doesn't price gouge. I don't know, like, have you ever walked your point out? I just really, like, people, I'm older than you. I could just fucking tell. And if I'm not, my Christ, you got to do this. You know, at some point in your day, folks, in your life, because we all have this thing called life. And at one point in your day, if you have a belief that, you know, sounds dumb when you speak it, because right now we're living in the land of less taxes for corporations, they pay less than working people, and less regulations for corporations. And the funny thing is, like, there used to not be regulations. So what happened was, like, people were like, holy shit, kids are smoking too many cigarettes working in the mines. You know, that Joe Camel, you probably don't remember him. He used to be a cartoon character on cigarette packs because there weren't regulations for it. And little kids were ripping butts going to work. And then America's like, oh, god damn, these corporations are really out of control, working our kids and stuff. We should do, like, schools for kids. You know, so hopefully they're not dumber than us to let us be tricked into letting them work in the mines and smoke all these cigarettes that doctors used to say were healthy. That's not a joke. I'm pretty sure I have a video where I have magazine ads where it's like Fred Flintstone's like, my doctor recommends 14 cigarettes a day. That's real life. But here, damn Yankees like, yep, you know, the problem is, like, Joe Camel's not on the cigarettes telling my kids to smoke anymore. So I just want you to sit down and really figure this out. Figure this one out, okay? Government regulations are not why things are priced high. That's corporate greed, you dodo bird. You will go extinct with that kind of thinking. You can just go on an earnings call. They love to do it, and that's where they tell you, guess what, our profit margins, not the profits, but the margins where they make the profits outside of their cost of goods, cost of labor, profit margins have never been higher. Why? Because the government's got their hands off, or the government is former employees of the corporation. The Jungle by what's his name is all about no regulations in the U.S. The Jungle is the author. What's his name? Kim says, walk your point out. Give a percentage. Here, Kim. Back in the 50s, the highest income bracket had like a 70 to 90% tax rate. So I'll give you a percentage. Anyone who gets to $999 million, $999,000, you have 100% tax rate over that. So nobody in America can become a billionaire. Just like we have a minimum wage, well, then we implement a maximum wage. And there will be no billionaires while there are kids hungry, people going homeless, and BlackRock buying homes. I would like to show you this. This is, you know, why I wanted to come on here too. BlackRock just bought 50,000 homes at $300K each, then sold 3 of them to themselves for $700K. Your neighborhood's value just doubled overnight and you can't afford to live there. Here's how they're legally stealing the American dream. Step 1, identify middle-class neighborhoods with growth potential. They buy hundreds of homes in cash, 20-30% above asking price. Regular families can't compete with unlimited, it's private equity cash, but corporate cash, you get the point. Once they control enough inventory, they sell a few homes to shell companies they own. Those inflated sale prices become the new market price. Your property taxes triple based on these fake sales. That family that saved for 10 years to buy their first home, outbid by a corporation with infinite money. The elderly couple who own their home for 40 years, forced out by property taxes. And that I know I've spoken to people who live up in Maine. This old lady came down from Maine. I was selling something. She came down to pick it up for her granddaughter. And I said, how's it going up there with you maniacs? You bunch of maniacs. That's what we call them around here. It's a little jib jab, you know. We do the jib jabs with the maniacs and they love it. They giggle. And she said it's horrible. She said because of what's going on, she said a lot of people who have lived for generations in Maine, because you don't just move to Maine. Well, now this private equity and these wealthy people are just moving to Maine, and watch, they'll make it not rural. But there's a lot of people going up there figuring that's the new place to gentrify, you know, because there's only a certain amount of land. And I was talking to this lady and she said because the old property taxes skyrocketed because people are coming up paying cash, not people, but you know, faceless corporations that get free speech for the amount of money they want to put into it. And she said, and it's making people lose their homes. So again, yes, Kim, no billionaires. Kim, can you explain to me what a billionaire has done for you or the community? You know, besides siphon our tax dollars, like really, has Amazon paved the potholes in your road? Have they given people I know that work at Amazon that are miserable and can't afford to live, but just have to keep working just to survive? Like, I know real life stories where I don't need a fucking meme to teach me, but Kim, you know, you're so dedicated to the billionaire class. I'm just wondering, like, what did they do for you? How are they making America better? I can specifically cite things within my own life where they've made it worse. But it's okay. Kim, the funniest thing is Kim makes a point against her point. They allowed us to listen to unlimited music for $9 versus $20 CDs. First of all, a CD was about $14, so, you know, you were getting ripped off. But that streaming thing is all designed on purpose. I just did a story 2 weeks ago about how Amazon, when you buy something from the Amazon streaming platform, they assume they maintain that people know they're not actually buying to own it, but they own it as long as Amazon owns the license. Am I doing this right? So if Amazon loses the license to that movie, it doesn't matter that you bought it from them. You don't get to watch it anymore. It's hilarious how you will defend these people who are teaching you you'll like that you rent everything and you'll own nothing. Who is behind BlackRock? I believe it's probably some guy named John BlackRock. I believe it's one man named John BlackRock, and he wears a monocle and has an evil, long, smoky cigarette-y thing. Remember those? The old cigarette holders? You don't see those anymore. You don't see those anymore, and they got to bring them back. Michael Morgan, you want us to have nothing and like it. That's right, Kim. Kim's like, you'll like renting everything for a monthly subscription. You know, that thing you could have owned, she said $20, but I bought a CD before, and you usually bought them for $12 to $14. I mean, a double CD was going to be about $24. Here's the difference, Kim. When I own the CD, I don't have to keep paying $9 a month. So Kim is like, you should be happy paying $9 a month for, I don't know, how long have you streamed that music for, Kim? Let's just say 1 year, and let's call it $10. So to hear that music, you paid $120, because I'm sure you're not listening to all the music. You know, you're probably listening to Steve Perry. Steve Perry. I'm breaking down the better value for you, Kim. So Kim, you're paying $120 a year. Or I'll give you the $9 price. No, because you're not paying straight up $9. Most likely there's taxes and fees and the old Jeff Bezos goes to space fee. Is that a thing? So Kim, if you, I don't know, Kim, are you listening to everything? I'm pretty sure you're not. You're probably listening to the Frozen 2 soundtrack on repeat. That's why people like to brag about what they listen to the most on Spotify. Because they're like, look at the only thing I listen to, 100%, Frozen 2. So you paid $108 a year for something you could have bought for fucking $20 once. How's that feel, Kim? There's math making you look dumb. But, you know, it's okay. It's okay. Amen. Thank you, Rob. I needed a laugh. No, thank you, Amen, for being here. Eat the rich, not cake. Sean, you figured it out. 108, yeah, Ed. But Ed, if I can call you that, old Eddie Thornton. We got to be honest, right? She's not paying $9 after, like, unless it's, I don't know, $7.99 and then a little bit of change, or $8.99 wouldn't even be $9. There's no. Are you guys from America? There's no like flat $9 thing, you know. But I'll give her the 108. So you paid $108 last year to listen to fucking 4 different artists, when you could have just, bought the CD for, I'll even say for $50. For $50, you could have bought all their albums and listened to it forever. Guess what? The thing about owning shit is you don't have to pay for it every month. This is how maybe like you're young, or I don't know, because I come from the land of down under, where the down under, the upside down, is when we bought shit, we didn't have to like make sure our card was good, and like we didn't have to re-agree to terms of subscription. Like, it's so dumb, and people are like, I love it, man. Unlimited access. I'm like, oh really? What's the deepest cut you're listening to, Kim? Tell me some of the deepest cuts, Kim. Like, what's the artist that you're listening to? Because what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna show you how streaming also defines what you get to listen to. It's not like when you went to the CD store, which Amazon helped put out of business, but when you went to the CD store, there were local artists, there were small time. You could check out all this shit that they were curating. And Amazon likes to curate a very finite amount of stuff. Same with Spotify, And I'm more specifically talking about movies. That's why I say Amazon, because there are movies I remember owning, and there are some movies that I own now that, my good Christ, good luck buying. You can't find certain movies. It's all what they dictate they will sell. But that's just another point, not off the money side, where it's just like, theoretically, would you like to have a place where if there's a local band and they came in and said, hey, we printed all these CDs, we hold it and you could support it like that? Or would you like to have, the worst of the record industry come to life through one monarchy called Amazon, Walmart, Target, Kohl's? Like, at some point there's just going to be a merger and they're all going to have hallways to each other. But I'm done talking to you, Kim. So thank you for, bringing me through the Rolodex of points I like to try to explain to people. Like, you should own your media. Yeah, Geraldine, exactly. If it's not physical, they take it from you anytime. And the thing is Amazon admitted this. There was this court case, which I reported about a couple weeks ago, where Amazon said, well, our definition, the consumers who buy our movies, because this one lady was, oh man, I got to find the article again, because she was watching the funniest shit ever. I was like, I would have said it was something else. But it was like season 2 of dogs eating lollipops. It was something absurd. And this lady was like, I bought that and then it disappeared and I didn't get my money back and nothing. And Amazon was, in the article, was quoted as saying, our consumers understand that they're only buying a movie, a series, a DVD from us as long as we own the license. And I was like, nobody thinks that. Nobody in their right mind has ever been to a store and is like, I'm buying this as long as the store keeps the license. If maybe it's Maybelline loses its license to sell shit in Target, I understand I have to bring it back. I know that. That's, that's just with purchasing stuff. If I bought a drink and then all of a sudden they lost the licensing to the Kirkland brand water, I got to bring it back to Kirkland and say, I'm sorry about that. I bought it from the store and they lost the license. Like, that's what you're defending. It's so fucking dumb. I don't know how, this is what I mean. America's broken. We are absolutely broken. Jeff Bezos was like, you're going to rent everything and you're going to like it. And then BlackRock was like, oh, this is a good idea. Meanwhile, BlackRock rents these homes back to the same families they priced out. The rent is $2,500. Former mortgage payment would have been $18,000. They created the problem and sold you the solution. I'd like to thank my brother for sending me this, because I'm not really on the social medias. I'm not on the Instagrams and the Facegram. But this is, and I've watched this in real time happen as well, and probably you're just not paying attention. So, Kim, you're okay with these subscription sites robbing the artist. Well, that's the other thing, D-OK. You know, and that's why I'm saying the worst of the record industry, because they used to rob the artist in the old days. But now you have people like Daniel Elk, who owns Spotify. I'm pretty sure his last name is Elk. I can hardly believe that his real last name is Daniel Elk. And by the way, a major shareholder in Spotify is Peter Thiel. Thiel with it. Just Thiel with it. You know him from the PSYOP group Palantir. And Palantir is for all the people who like say less regulations. Well, Palantir has infiltrated the government everywhere, and they're looking to, you know, make a Skynet so they can just regulate you, you know. And then when Elon's brain plants come in and you put chips in your brain, they'll gatekeep, they'll paywall your memories. And you know, some people are like, it's cool, man. It's a subscription to your memories. Why wouldn't you want to subscribe? They keep it all in the cloud for you. And Cyborg me is going to be here going, God damn it, I remember when you just used to remember stuff. You know, we didn't have to pay this subscription to remember childhood memories. And this lady's like, yeah, but it's awesome. I don't keep nothing else in my brain, and they keep it all in the cloud for me. And all I got to do is make sure I keep working at Amazon so they can deduct it from my check so I can remember my childhood. And, like, that's where we're going. You know, I don't know how else to break it to you guys. I love how people are in the chat like, amazing, this guy wouldn't answer my specific question. Super chat it. If you really want to ask me, like, I never say this, but it's like too many fucking people are like, you won't answer about how awesome BlackRock is, huh? Nobody was buying those homes in the first place. And they come in and overpay and drive out the rest of the people. Funny how you won't answer me. Get over yourself. Fucking, you don't even have an avatar. I should start ignoring people if they just made the account yesterday and their avatar is the first letter in their name. There's gonna be a rule. I'm not gonna answer your thing, sorry. I'm just too fucking, I don't like how you're talking to me. I'm in a bad mood today. Deal with it. Justin Moffat. Peter also has the Poly Market Gamble on Everything site. Poly? Sorry. I'm thinking about roly-polies. What is BlackRock? Oh, private equity company. You should look into them, Miriam. And I'm serious. I'm serious. I like that there are people who can stop by and be like, what is this BlackRock? And I can, you know, guide you to finding out some new information about who's running the country. When you hear somebody say, I'm a libertarian, less regulations, what they're saying is like, I want corporations to make their own laws, and I would like to live in the Facebook town or whatever. Is Elon Musk still making Tesla town where you work and live all in the same town? Because they really, like, that's why they love these libertarians. They really want people to be like, yeah, the government's just in the way, man. Like, don't look up your workers' rights or, you know, why we can't abuse you more or why we have to give you a lunch. You know, those lunches are so dumb, right? You should just have to work the whole time. Yeah. And they're like, yeah, man, government's getting in the way. They're like making the company give me a break during work. God. You fucking people. They're not a home builder, Miriam. All right, I'll break it down for you again. Okay, BlackRock comes in, right, and they buy up these homes at $300,000, or they buy the homes at $300,000, and then they turn around and sell them to a shell company for $700,000. Your neighborhood just doubled overnight. No one could afford to live there anymore. Here's how they're legally killing the American dream. They identify middle-class neighborhoods of growth potential. They just did this in Florida with the whole town. They buy hundreds of homes in cash above the price. Regular families can't compete. Then once they control enough inventory, they sell a few homes and they bump up that market rate. And now your property taxes just tripled. So they have outbid families, and older people who own their homes can't afford the property taxes. But, you know, guys, I know a lot of you are just, you know, dedicated to the American status quo, which is not going very well right now, guys. Miriam, I just explained my biggest gripe with BlackRock. I know these tweets are old. Anonymum. Wait! Anonymum. No. Is that your name? I love the anomenon. No. Don't need to answer, but for the first time, I don't feel like throwing up when I get recommended an American creator. Greetings from Germany. Nice to see American with class consciousness. That's what this whole thing is. I call it a vision quest, but really it's a vision quest for class consciousness. Damn Yankee says, government's never made anything better. Okay. You might not know what the government does, buddy, but you know, like, how do you help somebody understand Social Security, fire departments, roads, buildings, minimum wage, the VA healthcare? I mean, I guess they hate the military too. I guess Mike hates the military because that's a government thing. You know, but how can I, you know, how do you compete with dumb comments like that? Oh, man. Scott Staples, yes, you should be ashamed of owning 12 rental properties. You like that we don't have communities in America. That's what it is. You want permanent renters so you can make money, while people have to infiltrate different areas of town every few years once BlackRock helps you bump those prices up. It's okay. You know, to each their own. Some people work for a living. Other people, you know, hoard properties. I don't know what to say, you know. Unlimited edit. Jarvis. I feel like you're Iron Man speaking to his assistant. Jarvis, go check the early life section of BlackRock CEO on Wikipedia right now. Ooh, what is that star? I thought you were doing the little alien. I just found the little alien emoji. The little purple guy going like this. I love him. They said cherish the little things in life, and I cherish that little alien emoji. If you know, you know. It's a little alien. And I don't know how I found it. Maybe I was recommended on my For You emoji page. Scott Staples, don't get mad because you asked a question, we gave you answers. You losers need to get a life. Oh, yeah? Well, you need to give us our community back, Scott. One love. They can't help chip us if we stand together and don't let them. That's right. However, if people are unaware and unable to connect the dots, if we don't educate, yeah, that's what welcome to the Vision Quest, hoping to get everybody class conscious. Some people are just like, I don't know, I want Amazon to tell me, you know, I'd really like to live. It's funny, the people who are like, the government makes things worse, but corporations make things awesome? It's like they really are like, I don't know, what if we just tried out the United States of Target and Kohl's, guys? You know? I know, like, nobody can work there and, like, buy a home, but what if we just tried it for a little bit? It's so funny. Most innovation is done with our tax dollars by scientists, but apparently scientists aren't cool anymore. You know, they're woke because they're, like, figuring shit out and thinking. Oh, God, sorry, the sun's in my eyes now. I can't really see. But America's so broken, man, you know? So broken. Just when you think, like, yo, we could totally have the best healthcare in the world. If people wanted America to be the best, they would, you know, agree. Like, hey, healthcare is like a human right. You know, like United Health, I'm sorry, but you guys didn't invent healthcare. You didn't invent the cures, the diseases, or any of it, you know? You weren't like, hey, when somebody breaks a leg, we should put a cast on it. You just gatekeep it. And it's rotting our country to the core. You know? Why should I pay to be in a fucking health club every single week out of my paycheck? And then when I need it, they're like, you gotta pay a lot more. Sorry, that was just the entrance fee. Once you get in here, you want to use the equipment, you got to pay a lot more. And then they're hiring AI, you know? And then you hear people saying, you know, the left wants to defecate on the street and no private property. It's like, you fucking moron. The left wants universal health care. People to not have to ever, I don't think any American should ever in their life have to work 2 jobs. Isn't that nuts? I know some of you guys are going to freak out, which, again, I don't know what happened to you in your life where you're like, no, you should work 3 jobs. How do you know if you're tough enough for Joe Rogan to listen to Joe Rogan or not? You know, the only way is the only people who listen to Joe Rogan is third shift after the first two. I'm like so fucking curious. And I know I get a lot of people who are like, yeah, I get it, because they're like, it happened to me. But I'm trying to get people who are like, you know, it doesn't have to happen to me to be like, no one should have to go through that shit. We're living in the future. You know, I don't know how to explain this to you folks, but there's like a lot of countries. I say this every live stream. There's a lot of countries that have universal health care. And people are like, oh, you got to wait in a line. Huh? You dick. You want to wait in a line all day? And it's like, well, here's the thing, guys. We could take their idea and make it better. I don't know. America's not really known for, you know, taking other countries' ideas and then, you know, making it different. You ever had Chinese food here? Anyways, you know, I know it's such a foreign concept, but we could totally do that. But there are people who are, I don't know, like, nah, I'd rather just pay and hope I don't ever have to use my health care. And that's good enough for me, while the United Health CEOs keep making bank, and they're worried about, they announced a few weeks ago that their stock prices weren't doing good enough. A healthcare insurance company wasn't like, hey, people are the healthiest they've ever been. It was nothing about fucking the health about people, but they were concerned their stock prices were dipping because of unnecessary care. Have you ever, put it in the comments, and Scott, I'm going to read your comment because you're my point. Scott Staple says, my life is great. Awesome. So you don't give a shit about anyone. This is the selfish attitude that I try to dissuade Americans, that you think makes you cool, where really the rest of us here, what a dickhead. There's kids going hungry in America, families losing their homes, people suffering because they don't have enough money to get the health care they need. We have the cure, we have the ability, but what I'm about to say with United Healthcare, and Scott's like, why should I give a shit until it happens to me? I don't give a fuck. Like, weird take, dude. Or maybe you just hate other Americans. I love the people who are like proud of America, but I hate all those other ones, you know, proud of like the little America I inhabit. So United Healthcare, you know, talks about we're doing too much unnecessary shit, which they're not. But I'd like to know if anybody ever in their life has gone to see a doctor and the doctor's like, listen, I know you don't need this, but we're just gonna do a deviated septum procedure on you just for shits and giggles. We're just gonna see. We just want it. We got the equipment. We just want to, you know, do it. We know you didn't come in for x-rays. You're saying your throat hurts, but let's just do some x-rays. We got the machine back there. It's been pretty cold all day. Let's warm that sucker up and see what a skeleton looks like. Have you ever in your life gone to the doctor and they're just recommending random shit? No. It's incredible. What is going on in the comments, you people? DOK Sim Racing. Good to see you, by the way. I haven't seen you in a few lives. Says, Americans have forgotten the idea of what living in a society actually means. Yeah, it's the weird paradox of the internet. You know, we're all connected, but somehow it's dehumanized people even further to be like, my life is awesome. What's that? Oh, you just don't have money, but they could totally fix it for you, and you're going to, you know, bad things happen from here. Oh, who gives a shit? And I'm like, well, it's so weird, man, because these people, you'll hear them talk about crime or things degrading or situations getting worse. And I'm like, you know, like the number one cause of like all the bad stuff is like this, like how we have America set up. No social safety nets, no way for people to, you know, get fucking cures unless they finance it. It's unreal. People like really think like, as long as I'm cool, then fuck you all. I don't know. Joshua, Sweden, Norway, Finland, all doing great. All big welfare countries. They believe in the welfare state. Here in America, people believe welfare is a bad word. I don't think they know the definition of it, but, you know, people taught them to think that, and because education is frowned upon, it's so funny when people are like, I want America to be great again. And then you're like, great at what? And they're like, illegal immigrants. Great at what? Get rid of them. What Native American tribe are you from? Not my God. We came here legally. We went to Ellis Island. These fucking people don't know shit. And all they're doing is being mouthpieces for the billionaires that are like, oh yeah, we have a doctor wing in our mansion. We have a private doctor on call 24/7. Money isn't a thing to us. We don't know the price of eggs. We'll never know the price of eggs. But that's cute that you are concerned about it. Is that what's going on? We didn't pay attention. Our buddies over at the chicken farm created some artificial scarcity to fucking raise the prices on you. And they're making a killing now. Who peddled cruelty? I'm missing some of the comments. Oh. Let's see how community-oriented you are. What's your opinion on Charlie Kirk being shot? Well, Mike, I talked about this the other day, you know? Like, I don't really have an opinion on what happened to him. Wait, was it the other day? I mean, this is his opinion on it. And I said that's horrible. Because as somebody who, you know, advocates for universal health care, gun control, the state I'm in, we have gun control. Just what I say is, like, as a parent in America, let's see, there were some people who said they were in Germany, Canada. So you're not going to understand this. I'm going to speak a foreign language. It's called Americanese. But as a parent in America, you are horrified when your kids go to school. When the school year starts up, yesterday there were 2 school things. And as a parent in America, it's terrifying that your kids come home and said, we had to go over the drill today. And you're like, God damn, we can fix this. We're the only country that this normally happens. But then you have people like this saying this, like he advocated for that. You understand, like he did. And there's people like me being like, we should really, it doesn't matter well, the other thing is, you know what I've been reading on the lines today? I wish that's what we call the internet. On the lines. I got it on the wire, back in radio, like way back in radio. They say it came down the news wire, which I always thought was cool. The news wire. The news wire doesn't exist anymore. It's rented back to you by Amazon. Time Warner Cable. They rent the news wire back to you. And if you don't pay the paywall, even though they have pop-up ads everywhere, then you can't read the news. That's America. Back in my day, we used to just buy a newspaper in the morning and the night. And now they want you to subscribe to get the news. So, who was it? Some no-name, no avatar asked me about yesterday. And I just say, I've been a proponent ever since, you know, when I was younger, I don't think I had much of an opinion. I never bought into here's the thing. I don't buy into, like, Joe Rogan's macho. Newton's own, he's from Newton, Mass, and I think he's just a fucking dickhead, you know, that tricked people to think he's a guy just asking questions, but now normally he lives in such a bubble. Joe Rogan normally thinks satire bits on the internet are like, what's happening out in the public? And you could tell he, like, never goes to see the public. He's very isolated and probably has, like, you know, SEAL Team 4 surrounding him at all times. The guy's a fucking loser. You know, and he used to kind of have compassion, empathy, and like normal thoughts. And then, I don't know, Spotify with Palantir as a major shareholder gave him $100 million, probably thought he was a good psyop. They're like, we could trick this guy with satire on the internet. He's fine to pump out our message. So I've never like bought into the whole manosphere shit. For me, like what defines a man is somebody who can apologize, forgive people. I don't know. The shit Jesus said. For me, really, it's like, that was always when for a long time I you know, rebelled against religion and Christ and questioned it all. And then there was a moment, you know, where like really hearing the words of Christ, I was like, damn, that's some of the toughest stuff. It's easy to go out and pick a fight or be a dick. You ever try to go up to someone who you were completely a jerk to and be like, I'm very sorry. I hope you can forgive me. That is terrifying. That is absolutely terrifying to genuinely do. You know, and that was one of the times where I told Joe Rogan I don't think his apology was the best, but he made a video, and it's probably everything. The internet records everything, and I even said, I was like, that's the most manly thing I've seen him do. Him apologize, be like, you know what, I'm sorry, I screwed up, and that's like, when I see that shit. You know, I know some people see like, well, Wes Watson has a Lamborghini or something, and I'm like, who gives a shit? What does that do again? Is that going to be on his gravestone? Like, owned a Ferrari? But you usually see on gravestones like loving brother, caring father, shit like that. You know? They're going to start renting gravestones to us, you know, and you're going to have to pay a subscription in the afterlife. Get ready for that. Digital gravestones. Ooh, that's a company I should start. Would you like a digital gravestone? And you could plot out what it says for the next 100 years? That's a good idea. Nobody steal that idea. God damn it. Joshua. Yeah, nobody's celebrating any death. That's the thing. Like, this is where I'm like, it's so funny how people get so lost in the rhetoric, you know, but nobody's celebrating any kind of violence. In fact, the whole thing is advocating for a peaceful society. And there's a lot of people that are just mouthpieces to, like, this dude was paid by the NRA, you know? And I think it's horrific that, like, this is, like, what he advocated for. I'm like, God damn, man. It's so sad. And I said this yesterday, I always think of people's kids whenever a tragedy happens. I remember when Bourdain, Cornell, like all these dudes, only because I say that because I lost my parents at a young age. So I know the impacts of growing up, you know, spending 20 years with no parent and all the milestones you hit. And you're like, God damn. And then the worst part is when you become an adult, you start to understand stuff your parents said. It's a pain that you can't describe. It's this untouchable pain, this untouchable scar you have inside in your soul that it never goes away. And people used to say like, oh, it heals with time. And I said, no, it really doesn't, you know, because that wound can be fresh.